88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Weekends, and I am not the only one here. I have a guest with me today, if she'd like to introduce herself. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Wrong mic.
I turned
That's
on
okay.
mic. I turned on mic 3.
That's okay. I'm on mic 4 today.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amy Bates. If you don't know me from the station, I am the production coordinator, so I make all of the spots that are in between songs, so you'll most likely hear my voice if you tune in. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard your voice when you're doing the Burg foot trying to make a paper airplane or something in class, or what was
Yep.
it? It was like a paper swan or something.
Yeah,
You-
it was Bergfoot doing origami, and the
Right.
paper is not working with his big, strong, meaty claws.
Describing his hands as claws. That's a choice. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's incorrect,
Yeah.
but it is a choice. But since you mentioned origami, that's a really good segue into what we're going to be talking about tonight. Because tonight we are talking about Studio Ghibli movies.
Yes.
Because they're good movies. And a lot of other reasons, about 40 other reasons I could list off for talking about Studio Ghibli. But I figured, hey, do I know anybody who likes anime in any capacity that isn't my own mother that I could ask to be a guest on the show? And I was like, oh, I know Amy at least a little bit. I know that you like anime. And so it kind of felt like a natural pick to have you on as a guest. And I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, I think it makes sense to jump into the first movie that we're going to be talking about, which is Spirited Away from 2001, available to watch now on Max. I hate that noise of my mouth having stuff in it because my mouth, for some reason, is like, no, saliva stays. It doesn't go
Yeah.
down.
It's
Point
the
is,
same thing in production.
I can imagine.
Sometimes listening back to my recordings is like, ew.
Yeah, yeah,
Why'd you
it's-
do that?
Okay, so basic plot line of Spirited Away is it is about a young girl by the name of Chihiro who is spirited away, like in the title,
Whoa.
to to the land of the spirits. Whoa again. And essentially, separated from her parents, she must find a way to get out of the spirit world. Because as it turns out, the spirit world is not for human beings, if you can imagine. I can't imagine why it would be for human beings, but it's not. So there we go. At any rate, Spirited Away is super iconic. It's very well known. It's highly critically acclaimed. And because of that, I think it's funny to start off with my mild complaints regarding it.
Oh, okay.
I
What are
have-
your mild complaints?
My mild complaints are it starts with something that happens at the beginning and the ending of the movie. At the beginning of the movie, Chihiro and her parents come across this abandoned fairground entrance, and they're walking through, and there's a shot of them walking from right to left, and it shows a close-up of Chihiro holding onto her mother's arm, and you have her mother saying, "Chihiro, don't cling to me like that. You'll make me trip." In the ending, as everything has happened, she's gotten her parents free. They're walking back out of the abandoned fairgrounds. They walk from left to right. She says, "Don't cling like that, Chihiro. You'll make me trip." In the dub version, it's the exact same voice line. And it shows Chihiro holding onto her mother with the exact same facial expression. Miyazaki, how dare you Control C and Control V? Shameless, low effort, one shot, nitpick. This is a joke. This is like one of the few things I could say that they did wrong with Spirited Away.
Did they copy and paste the actual voice line as well? Like,
Yes.
did it sound exactly the same?
It sounded exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing they did was reverse it. Now, that is one shot. That's a nitpick. Let's see here. Do I have anything else? Oh, yes. This is a Japanese animated movie. So naturally, it's not like an American animated movie because it's from Japan and there's a cultural difference.
Yes, there is.
Wow. What else? Oh, yeah. The dialogue is is sometimes a little goofy because Chihiro talks to herself, but that's fine because it's hard to make a character talk to themselves, and they're also relying on translations to English. translations from Japanese to English is not as easy as you'd think. I don't know. Is it very easy? Or would
Well,
you know?
depends on if you know the language.
Right.
First of all.
Right. Fair
but
enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Japanese sentence structure is completely the opposite of an English
Yeah.
sentence structure. Because
Right.
like the adjective and the verb are like switched or whatever. I don't know. I took Japanese. I just finished up my Japanese minor.
Nice.
Still don't know how it works, but I'm doing my best.
I just finished an entire minor,
Yes.
and I still don't know how the language works even remotely.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point. It's a very the biggest consistency I've always seen is that the last name tends to come before the first name, and I know that's like a cultural thing, like a familia thing, because I've taken a Asian philosophy class. It's part of their family tradition. But that's just one example, and with it being the verb and the adjective being the same way, I'm sure that gets confusing really fast.
Yeah, it's definitely a mind workout, translating Japanese sentences to English and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's understandable that some of the English lines will sound a bit goofy. Now, let's see. Is that it? Is that all of my negative stuff? Yes, that's it. Those were tiny nitpicks. That was all I had to say negative about Spirited Away. I figured it'd be funny to start off with that.
Yeah,
because
sure.
there's very few bad things about Spirited Away, if I'm being completely honest. That's mostly just my opinion, but I wanted to ask, like, do you agree with that at all, or what would you say?
I don't believe I've ever noticed the Control C, Control V of the beginning and ending scenes.
You'll never unsee it. I saw it the first time.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know. Spirited Away was my first Studio Ghibli movie. So I don't know. It's a classic for me, but I don't really seek after the inconsistencies and like the
Right.
nitpicky stuff. I guess that's not really my thing.
No, that's fine. I mean, I only did it because it was funny, and to be honest, there's very few of them. It's not like if I was to nitpick the entire movie, I would come up empty-handed. That's why that sequence was so short. But yeah, I guess more so overall. Do you think? How do I phrase this question? Okay, let me ask you. Do you think there are any story problems with Spirited Away?
Story problems.
Do you think, are you bored at any point? Do you feel like
I
there's
don't think so.
Exactly.
I'm the kind of person, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody.
Sure.
But at least my experience with Studio Ghibli movies in general is
Yeah.
I'm so captivated by everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you're even a slight fan of Studio Ghibli, you might have seen like behind the scenes footage of like how the animations work, how long they take to make. And I'm just so fascinated by like literally everything that's going on in the background.
Right.
The attention to detail that the backgrounds of these movies have is just spectacular. So I don't think I ever get bored watching them.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said any of that better myself, if I'm being honest. I even had it written down in a way, but I think you summed it up pretty perfectly. With Spirited Away specifically, I always notice, especially on a rewatch, I was noticing how consistent the character designs are, even from further away, and how nice the fairgrounds looked, and how intricately moving but digestible the interiors of the bathhouse looked, and all the little ducks in the little pool and
yes.
going ack, ack, or whatever they were doing. I don't know what they were doing, but they were being ducks and they were
Yes.
chilling, and I want to be there.
Is it really a Studio Ghibli movie if you don't have little creatures running around?
No, it really isn't. You just got to have the little things running around. It's like an episode of, it's almost weird comparison. It's like having an episode of Smiling Friends where something doesn't scream. That's the first comparison I thought of, because it also has a bunch of tiny little creatures that run around.
Yeah, I've seen clips. I haven't watched the show because
Fair
I think the
enough.
screaming overwhelms me.
I
From the clips that
I could
I've seen.
understand that, actually. I could really see that. You got to be a special kind of crazy to really digest what's going on in Smiling Friends. But I feel like from that opposite end of the spectrum, you have a lot going on in Studio Ghibli and in Spirited Away by extension, but a lot of it is very digestible, and a lot of it is almost soothing to look at in a lot of instances. I think Spirited Away is really good at it, especially when they're looking at the ocean or they're looking at the steam within the bathhouse itself.
Yes. I will never get over the way that Studio Ghibli and like Studio Mappa animate water.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it. It's just so like captivating to me.
I'm just thinking about when they pull the pole out of the mud spirit or whatever, and there's just that massive flood of water.
Yeah.
It's what for some reason I'm thinking of that famous portrait of water, which I believe was a Japanese piece of art. If I'm not,
Are you thinking of the Great Wave?
Yes.
The big, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Great Wave. What is it with them being so good at drawing water?
Yeah.
They're just really good at it.
Yeah.
It's like, here's water. Let's make it look like the most beautiful thing you will ever see in your life. And you will never be able to look at like the ocean the same way again.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. You've ruined my perception, but in a good way. Let me see here. I don't have like an extensive amount of stuff to say about Spirited Away, and half of them were fake negative things. But I did want to bring up something really funny, and that is I was watching it on Sunday, partially for my show, and because it's the most well-known Studio Ghibli movie. But I was also doing it because I was behind on a film theory assignment that was due that night
Oh.
that I had to do.
See, college kids can multitask.
Yeah, I was sitting there watching the movie and also going, let me analyze this. And by analyze, I mean analyze. I'm just going to watch it and see if I can figure out what the message is. That's all I was really doing. I wasn't writing it while I was watching it. In hindsight, I probably should have, because I ended up missing the turn-in date. And I was
no.
like, I'm sitting there at 12:01 going, no.
This can't be.
The long and short of it is I was trying to figure out what's the core message of Spirited Away. Is there a super deep message? There's not a super deep message, but there is a message. And it took me 10 seconds after the movie ended to figure it out. You know, so the basic plot line of Spirited Away, something I haven't mentioned, is that Chihiro is moving to a new town. She's going to go to a new school. She's going to be in a new place without her old friends. And then she ends up going to the spirit world, which is a new place with no friends, no parents, nothing. She ends up conquering her fears, getting through the ordeal, getting free, and succeeding with friends, with her family back, etc. And at the end of it, her parents are like, are you ready to go to your new school? Yes. That's the point of the movie. Chihiro basically grows up and learns, hey, I can take on the world now because I've gone to the nightmare dimension. And
Pretty much.
Yeah, and a new school doesn't seem all that scary anymore.
Well, if you think about it, school can be a nightmare dimension in and of itself.
That
Depending on your outlook on life.
That has destroyed my entire understanding of Spirited Away completely. I feel so bad for poor Chihiro. She's going to show up and there's going to be, I don't know, some guy named Darren, and he's going to be like, hi. And it's like, take me back to the no-face realm.
Yes, please, please.
No, that is a good point. That's a very good point. But I mean, all the more better that she went to an actual physical representation of a nightmare realm, because that means it's just a more accurate depiction of what it's actually going to be like. So
Yeah, it's training grounds for school.
Exactly. I don't mean to talk over you. Do you have anything you want to add on?
You're good, no worries. I did have something. Oh, you were talking about like finding messages in Spirited Away, and I kept thinking to myself, like, when I watch Studio Ghibli movies, I really have a difficult time finding a message because I'm so focused on like, what are the motifs of Ghibli movies? Because doing the rewatches today, and by the way, I spent like 6 hours watching Studio Ghibli movies in my bed today, so that was awesome. Great way to spend my Saturday.
I've spent my weekdays doing worse, so you're fine.
No, it was great. I loved it. But yeah, looking at like all of these different movies and seeing what specific motifs that Hayao Miyazaki, his first name is hard to pronounce. Miyazaki is perfectly fine.
Yes.
Yeah, just seeing what motifs he likes to go with in his movies, and I've found out through rewatches of the three movies, three or four, maybe movies we'll be discussing today, that there are common themes of spiritual realms, planes, war,
Yeah.
and little creatures.
Yeah. And nature.
Yes.
That those little
Nature.
creatures inhabit.
Yes. Nature. And like some sort of human/spirit hybrid in multiple movies. Because there's one in Spirited Away. Haku is a human turned dragon.
Yeah.
There is Chihiro's parents turn from human to pig. I was watching Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
He turns into like some bird.
Yeah. There's Yubaba can transform into a raven. That my brain is tingling because that is a really good observation that I never noticed before. But you're absolutely right. That's a really good point. I mean, is Porco Rosso technically that?
I think so, yeah. Because I haven't seen Porco Rosso until today. So that was a perfect excuse to
Right.
watch a newer Studio Ghibli movie for me. But yeah, because Porco was human, and then he got turned into a pig.
Yeah, I
Pigs is also a theme that I see between the Spirited Away and Porco Rosso.
For people who listened into the Wednesday show, you're well familiar with the fact that I could not get over Porco Rosso being a pig when I talked about it. Yeah. I was going hysterical just saying it over and over again. But we'll save that for when we get to Porco Rosso tonight. Point is, that is a very astute observation, and I love the fact that you noticed that because you are 110% right. That is something I'm going to keep in mind for the rest of my life whenever I watch another one. Yeah. Was that all you got about Spirited Away, or do you have anything else?
I really, really love Haku's design and
the dragon design specifically.
Yes, the dragon design specifically.
I love that.
I love the dragon design for Haku and the way that they animated his movement of the scene where there's a whole bunch of like little paper cutout people that start cutting him up and like he's trying to get away from them because they're attacking him. Yeah. The way that he flies through the air like a figure eight, it's so beautiful. I love it.
It's visually very stimulating to watch, and I personally. I do enjoy it. I think the thing that I like the most about it is that you don't really factor it in, but knowing the twist that he's essentially the spirit of a river really makes that dragon design come to life about 10 times more. Because I'm like, look at how fluid he is. Look at how blue he is.
Fluid? Oh my gosh. We've cracked the code.
Fluid. Whoa. Water wet.
Water. Yes.
No, I also like how much his one of the best things you can do with the dragon design is make it modeled after a specific animal. And I don't know what kind of, I want to say it's a cat or a dog of some kind, but his face is designed off of a specific animal that isn't a dragon. Because dragons don't exist, you kind of have to make them look more like an actual animal in some way. It's kind of like how they made Smog's design in the 2D Hobbit look a lot like a dog in some way. But yeah, I'm basically just breaking down a lot of specifics about Haku. What I'm saying is I agree. It's very beautiful.
I did have one more thing.
Oh, go for it.
So I am looking currently at your post from Wednesday.
Oh no.
And there's a note in here from Spirited Away about No Face.
Yes.
And for those of you, would it be all right if I read this
to
the
go
audience?
for it.
Okay. For those of you who have not followed Nathan on Instagram,
at What to Watch Wednesdays, all one word, no caps, no spaces.
Yes, all one word, no caps, no spaces. You can see this wonderful post as well, but under Spirited Away, Nathan wrote, "No Face is so confusing to me. Does he represent something? What about him is special? I mean, aside from the design and his strange behavior, not to mention his constant presence. Don't forget, he's very powerful. But aside from that, what's special about him? Everything." I read this the other day, and I was like, hold on, wind it back. I need to think about
Warp,
what I'm
warp,
going to...
warp.
Yeah, wind it back. I need to think about what I'm going to say before I start speaking.
Gotcha.
That's a constant problem in my life.
You're better at it for stopping beforehand. I usually just say stuff and then walk it back after I've already said it. So you're ahead of the game.
That's all right. But yeah, speaking from my perspective of No Face and my interpretation of No Face, I think in part he represents greed
Yeah.
because obviously like the scenes where he's like gobbling up all the food and the people, the workers at the bathhouse, and like he's got gold coming out of him at some point. And I feel like in that moment specifically, like not only does No Face represent greed for keeping all of that in him, but releasing that also portrays the greed onto the workers of the bathhouse because they're all scrambling to get gold nuggets. So
You are the second person who has said that to me. The
Really?
first one was my own mother.
Oh,
We were
well,
talking about this, and I'm not saying that you're wrong or that she's wrong. If anything, you saying that again kind of reinforces that because she said exactly the same thing. And I think you are 100% right. I can see that now. I suppose the one reason I asked that question is because I was looking at a description of him on the wiki and I was going, wait, he's not from any traditional Japanese mythology. They kind of made him up for this movie specifically. And I got kind of hung up on that I didn't stop to think about it. I do think he does represent greed in that way. It's kind of that, it is that simple cathartic thing of gold. But then they also have, what was the other character? There was not, what am I trying to say? I remember another character my mother said represented gluttony in a way. Oh, the baby.
yes.
She said the baby represented gluttony in a way. I suppose greed represented by No Face. She was trying to make comparisons between the 7 deadly sins, and now I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know the rest of them by heart, but I feel like Haku could be rage in a way with the dragon.
Yeah, greed and gluttony are the first two that I think of.
Right. So it's
And I don't remember the rest.
so it's the deadly 3 sins is what
Yeah,
we've
the 3 deadly sins.
the 3 deadly sins. I mean, one of them I don't think we should mention on the radio.
Probably not.
Yeah, that one can don't worry about it. But we've been talking for a while, and that's good. But we have to take a break. So might as well take a break. I
Yeah.
say we will take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about Castle in the Sky. So I'll be back soon. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, and I am joined by
Amy Bates.
yay! I always want people to introduce themselves whenever we come back because I don't want to take away the fact that you can talk too. So that's my reason. Anyways,
I appreciate that.
yay! So for our second movie tonight, we are going to be talking about Castle in the Sky from 1986. If my phone decides to stay where I put it, at any rate. Castle in the Sky is available to watch on Max currently, and for the basic plot of Castle in the Sky, it follows a young boy by the name of Patsu who meets a girl named Shida, who falls into his life quite literally because she falls out of the sky, floats more specifically, and over the course of them meeting and interacting, he realizes that she is connected to a lifelong quest his own father had to find Laputa, the castle in the sky. As it turns out, she is also being chased down for some relation to Laputa by government agents, the military, and pirates. So it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Let me see here. Where do I want to start? Oh yeah, here's the best place to start. Castle in the Sky is my favorite Studio Ghibli movie out of the ones I have watched. But what did you think of it?
I like it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I would probably say Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite.
Right.
Again, going back to our conversation before we took our short break about the intricate backgrounds,
Yeah.
Howl's bedroom
Yeah.
is so intricate.
Yeah.
And thinking back to like the flower fields and like the
I should.
Howl's house too is just.
I don't want to. I don't want to cut you off,
You're
but we
good.
will be talking about Howl's Moving Castle near the end of the show. So save all
Yeah,
of that
we'll-
for later.
We'll save it for later. But yeah, I think Howl's Moving Castle is probably my favorite.
That's fair. That's. I
Castle,
mean,
and it's not to say that Castle in the Sky is not good,
no.
but yeah.
If I'm being honest, this is one thing I've mentioned with a lot of people, but I might as well mention it with you as well. I have found that it's quote unquote arbitrary or kind of just depends on the person what Studio Ghibli movie ends up being your favorite.
Yeah.
It's not really like, sure, sometimes, okay, how do I put it? If somebody looked at me dead in the face and said, my favorite Alien movie is Alien 3, I'd go, I don't like you. That's a joke, but not really. I'd go, okay, I understand what kind of person you are. You like hot garbage. Or if you like Terminator Salvation over Terminator 2, what's wrong with you? Quite frankly. But if you say, oh, I like Howl's Moving Castle more than Spirited Away, or oh, I like Kiki's Delivery Service more than Princess Mononoke, or oh, I think I like Princess Mononoke more than Howl's Moving Castle. It could go with infinite number of combinations. I don't think I, in my right mind, even as nitpicky and as critical and as kind of annoying as I can be about movies, I can't in good conscience criticize anybody for their favorite pick of Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah.
It's kind of unique in that way, but I'm sure there's other examples out there.
I agree. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't, because I've watched the majority of what Studio Ghibli movies are out there, and every single movie has its. I mean, every single movie is just beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could pick a favorite, like an absolute favorite between art, storyline,
Right.
and I don't know, motivations, characters, I guess.
I mean,
is another thing.
characters and then vocal performances and then musical scores. It's like each one is really good in different ways, and none of them are really all that bad. And if you find anything bad, it just evolves into my nonsensical nitpicking of Spirited Away. If anything, it doesn't really go into anything actually negative. So the long and short of it is, I just kind of picked Castle in the Sky and ran with it as my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from literally, there's so many good parts of it. There's some parts of it that I'd say are a little rough, with it being earlier. Some of the animation looks a little choppy at times, and the drawings themselves can look a little wobbly, but not bad by any standard. And with me being more familiar with the dub, sometimes the dubbing quality isn't the best because it's a dub. And it's not like you can just stick English lines over the original Japanese lines and expect it to shake out. You have to edit stuff. You have to work it around. You have to figure it out. And sometimes you don't get a perfect take. So it's like, okay, that's what all of that is. It's a type of editing in a way, and sometimes it's not perfect. Long and short of it is, despite any of its flaws, I think it's my favorite, mostly because of the two main characters. I absolutely adore Patsu and Shida. I love them more than any of the other Studio Ghibli characters that I've seen. Like, and that's saying something compared to a lot of the other options out there. Like, people like No Face, Chihiro, Howl. What are the other examples? Porco. There's a lot of them out there. Even the main character from Mononoke. I completely forget her name. I feel so bad. What was the name of the princess in Princess Mononoke? Let me check. Oh, no. I can't Google fast enough. Yes, Princess Mononoke is spelled Princes. That's how you spell princess.
For sure. Sun is her name.
San, yes. San is great. What are the other examples out there that I have seen currently? I can't list them all off.
Have you seen My Neighbor Totoro?
I have. So Totoro and the cat bus. Yes, Totoro is awesome because he's a big bunny and I like big things that do funny stuff. The point is, So many choices out there, so many picks. At the end of the day, though, I think Patsu and Shida are my favorite because I think they're the ideal forever couple out of all the ones I've watched. Even the main characters in Mononoke, I could see them being together, but they don't really end up that way. Patsu and Shida, I feel like, definitely end up together in some form. And I'm sure in Howl's Moving Castle, Sophie and Howl do end up together, like literally. But I could see, I think overall, Patsu and Shida's relationship would last a lot longer because they meet when they're younger. Whereas
that's a good point.
I think that would just last a lot longer and would warm my heart a lot more. Even though Howl and Sophie have a good relationship, it's just not as heartwarming as two young kids. Young love, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing is...
I love young love.
Yes, we love young love here on What to Watch Weekends. Absolutely. This is the personal opinion of the host of the show. Young love is amazing, and I support it in every facet, at any rate. Positivity. Now then, negativity, I don't have any. Do you have anything?
The only remotely negative thing that I have about this movie is the shakiness of some scenes. And like you were saying before, it's an older animation, so the animation does look a little bit choppy in some moments.
Yeah.
For my eyes, it is a little bit of like a workout for them for some reason. Just trying to track the characters within the shaking is a little bit difficult.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything negative about it other than that.
Right. So I suppose flip back to what are your core positives with this?
Flying machines.
That's a good pick.
Flying machines, yeah. Studio Ghibli has a way of animating flying things that is... I really can't think of any other positive descriptive words besides like beautiful, amazing, like the...
Funtabular.
Yes, we'll go with that. It's funtabular.
Whimtastic.
Yes.
Whimtastic, I feel like fits Ghibli a lot better because you could describe it as whimsical and then you call it fantastical and it's like, what's the combination? Whimtastic.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was chatting with Nathan before we came back from break, and there are more themes that I have thought of between Studio Ghibli movies. Flying machines is another one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Witches is another one.
That's a good point.
Sidekick little buddies. I did mention creatures, little creatures.
Yeah.
And then pirates is another one.
Yeah, I mean, specifically from the ones we're talking about, but I can't disagree with the fact that pirates just tend to be something that Miyazaki likes.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dola gang in Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky.
Yes.
Excuse me. I was talking with my mother, and she's like, Doa is probably my favorite character of Ghibli. And I was like, that's a really good pick, because she's so funny. She's like, all for one and all for mom, which is like a great line. Doa is so funny. Do you think one of those other themes would be old ladies?
Oh, absolutely.
That is a good point, honestly. It's like Dola and Sophie and Yubaba and Zaniba.
And more recently in The Boy and the Heron, I believe there are some old ladies who are like housekeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
definitely.
Now we're just like listing off all of the things that Ghibli does. But I mean, I'm not complaining. I think that's really good. And I'm still reeling in shock from the fact that you revealed that animal-human hybrids are such a theme in Ghibli, because I can't disagree with it. I think that Castle in the Sky doesn't really have that, but...
I don't think so.
No, but it does have big robots.
It does have big robots.
So it has that going for it.
Yeah.
And they can fly, so it's still flying machines.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade-off.
Yeah, it's kind of a series of trade-offs. So you get the old lady, and you get the flying machines, and you get the little. Were there little creatures? I don't think there were little creatures.
In Castle in the Sky?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, so you don't get the little creatures, but you get the old ladies, you get the flying machines, you get the robots.
Yes.
And then you get the good music.
Yes, obviously.
I mean,
staple.
That's one thing that my mom was telling me, oh, you should bring up. The music in all of the Ghibli movies, or specifically the ones we're talking about, mainly all of Miyazaki's stuff, is beautiful. And I found out from my mom telling me, oh, you should talk about the music. I keep bringing up my own mother, but she's the reason I got into this in the first place. So it makes total sense that I keep bringing her up. She got me addicted to Ghibli. It's her fault that I'm like this. So long and short of it is, she talked about the composer for it and said that he was a well-acclaimed one. And I was like, oh, really? Let me look him up. And I did. And his name is...
Joe Hisaishi.
Yes. You did a better job at pronouncing the last name than I probably would. Point is, he is a composer who made a lot of the music for Miyazaki's work, but he also made music for one of my personal favorite film directors, who is also Japanese, a man by the name of Beat Takeshi Kitano, who I absolutely adore. He made movies. He was the one who did Takeshi's Challenge and was in the movie Battle Royale, which I don't know if those ring any bells at all. If they don't, that's completely fine.
Not for me.
Fair enough. He's basically well known as a reincarnation of Kurosawa in a way, which, does that name ring a bell at all?
It does.
He's the one who directed Seven Samurai and The Hidden Fortress. And what else did he do? He did so much. He was the one who invented Meet the Team and basically was responsible for Star Wars. You know the samurai movie that they say, oh, this inspired A New Hope? It was The Hidden Fortress. That one inspired A New Hope. Point is, Takeshi Kitano is a lot like Kurosawa in the fact that he directed, wrote, edited his own movies, and did a bunch of other stuff. He's a painter, he's a poet, he's a TV host, stand-up comedian. I love his movies to death. Anybody who listens to the show knows that I adore Takeshi Kitano. And when I saw that what's his name again?
Joe Hisaishi.
Yes. I need you to pronounce it so I don't say it wrong.
That's okay. It's a Japanese accent thing.
Yeah. So when I found out that he made the musical scores for Takeshi Kitano's movies, Sonatine and Hanabi, the best ones in my opinion, some of his best work, I was ecstatic, going, the same guy who made legendary music for these beautiful animated movies also made musical scores for some of my favorite crime movies of all time, which were also Japanese. So that was just a fun comparison. I felt it was worth bringing that up.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, let me see here. Why do I like Patsu? Oh, I know exactly why. Just to keep it funny and not be so rambling off track. One of the best scenes in this movie is when Patsu goes, hey, Shida, your necklace is magic. It makes you float. And he goes...
I know exactly what scene you're talking about.
This is when they first meet. And he's like, can I borrow the necklace? Great. Watch me. He just runs to the edge of a roof and holds his arms out in a T-pose and jumps off the roof. And he doesn't start to float. He crashes through the roof of the building below him.
Which is made of brick, by the way.
Yes. How is Patsu so small but built like a truck? And how did he survive? Those are questions you should not be asking. You should start with the fact, why did he just straight up jump off a roof? And why am I laughing so hard?
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious because it's very funny. But... in the dub version, it's so funny to hear James Van Der Beek just go, here I go. Anyways. Do I have anything else? Oh, yeah. I think Mark, so did you watch this subbed or dubbed?
Subbed.
Okay.
Yeah, for all of the movies that we'll be discussing today.
Right. So you didn't get a chance to hear Mark Hamill play Muska in Castle in the Sky.
Mm-mm.
He plays the main villain of this movie, which is half the reason why this movie is so good in the dubbed version. If you can imagine, wow, Mark Hamill, a legendary voice actor, makes a movie better. Whoa.
What? Crazy.
I will admit, during that final fight in the castle where there's like the hologram version, I don't know if this was something in the sub version as well. Was it like kind of difficult to understand what he was saying because of the hologram? Did it sound kind of weird and echoey in that scene?
I don't quite remember. I don't think that there were any issues with dialogue being lost to the hologram.
Right. Which is the only reason I bring it up is because with the dub version, I think they did some weird audio editing and it sounded difficult to understand. I don't think I would have understood it without the subtitles, is what I'm getting at. I think it was kind of like a weird thing they did with the dub. So it's kind of a point against it as well that the dub is not perfect. Despite how good I think it is, there are a lot of rough edges with it, and it kind of mimics the animation in some instances of how rough it is. It's not like it's bad per se, just a little difficult. It's not like they cut it off too soon. They just cut it off too soon sometimes, right? They cut off the words, and then it's like, oh, here's the next scene. But you still get the full word. You just cut it off in a very awkward position. Kind of how the animation is. It's not like it's bad. It's just a little stiff and kind of awkward to watch. So I felt I should bring that up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I should also mention, I think the core issue, my main complaint, and keep in mind, this is my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. So admitting that it's your favorite means that you can point out its flaws and problems. I think that it's such a sheer level of coincidence that Patsu, whose father was looking for Laputa and died after looking for Laputa, meets Shida, a direct heir to Laputa, and is wearing a necklace that leads to Laputa. Isn't that kind of convenient for
Very.
those two to meet? Anyway.
Well, now you've got me thinking about proximity between Patsu's house and Laputa. And I guess I didn't really pay attention to how far they had to travel from Patsu's house to Laputa, because Laputa is in the sky.
Right.
It is a castle in the sky. Huh.
Whoa.
Title drop.
Whoa. That's why they call it that.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking like, is Laputa directly over Patsu's house? And his dad was just like, I'm going to fly directly above our house, actually. And there is an island up here.
I think I don't know how far they actually had to travel, because keep in mind they were running away for half the time.
They were. And they went on a train and everything.
Yeah, so it may not have been as far away. That is a good point. And now I'm thinking about it. It may have been closer than they thought. And they also took Shida to like the castle and everything. So it wasn't like a direct shot. It could have very well been above Patsu's house for all we know. Maybe that's why he still lived there, because he still had the photograph from his dad and he was trying to build that flying machine at the beginning before he got roped into the adventure as well. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, they should have brought that back and had him finish that. But
yeah, I agree. I was looking forward to seeing his little finished plane, but
I
honestly, if he finished that plane, I don't think it would have stood up to the winds that
probably
would
not
have led him into Laputa.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, how did that kite that they were in survive at the same time? So
good question.
yes, but no, but yes.
Yes, and
Yes, and we
yes,
are.
and yet, but.
Huh?
Yes, and yes, but.
Yes, but we do need to go to a break. We need to play the legal thing. And I need to get some water. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will talk about Porco Rosso. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Weekends, and I am joined tonight by
Amy Bates.
Yay! For our third movie tonight, we are going to continue our theme of talking about Studio Ghibli movies, which will be our third movie, that being Porco Rosso from 1992, which is available to watch on Max. The basic, you could call it the plot of Porco Rosso, is a bunch of pirates or sky pirates, I should say, who fly planes, are trying to find this mysterious pilot known as Porco Rosso in the Italian Sea. I forget what it's called, the Adriatic Sea.
Yes.
And this is after World War I and near Italy, so they're trying to find him. And Porco Rosso is an elusive pilot who is a pig.
Quite literally a pig.
An
yes.
actual pig. He is a bipedal, man-shaped pig.
Yep.
And on my Wednesday review of this movie, I couldn't stop saying it because if I'm being honest, he's really good at using the excuse that he's a pig for literally everything. He's like, I don't fight with honor. I'm a pig. I don't want to be a fascist. I'm a pig. I don't want to go there. I'm a pig.
Yep.
I can fly a plane, but I'm a pig. He does say it a lot.
Yeah, he does. Now that I think about it, because I'm thinking about, I watched the sub version of this movie, and there's a bank scene
Right.
where
Yeah.
he's like getting money for a loan or something.
Yeah. It
And
was
he's
getting
like-
money to pay off his. Wait, no, it was for a loan. That was later in the movie. Sorry, continue.
I think that's the scene where he's like, better to be a pig than a fascist or
No,
something.
no,
like
that's
that.
when he's in the movie theater talking to his friend, and he
Oh.
says, "Better to be a pig than a fascist."
Yes.
But then but in that, I think it was, you should join the army. No thanks, I'm a pig. I
Oh.
fight for myself. I think that's the line you're thinking of.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's like, there's multiple examples of him just saying that. Now, that doesn't mean I should have gone as hysterical as I did and said it about 50 times, but c'est la vie, it happened, oh well. Let me see here. The point I'm trying to get at is, despite how crazy I went with it and how many times he mentions it, I find it interesting that that is his coping mechanism, because if I'm being honest, it's not a very good one. Because he acts more like a human than a pig. He doesn't snort. He doesn't really eat anything super disgusting. He eats food. If anything, he acts more like a human being than most other anthropomorphic animals I've ever seen. He doesn't really have the traits of a pig. He just looks like one, and that's about it. So it's not the best coping mechanism for him, which I think is a good thing because it shows how kind of fragile he is as a person after this curse and how kind of unmotivated he is. He just kind of throws it out as an excuse. It's kind of deep in the sense of like, I can understand why he'd use it as an excuse, but all that does is reveal how weak of an excuse it is at the end of the day, I suppose. That's my interpretation of it, at least. Because I think he, in some way, has some form of survivor's guilt.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a spoiler. I don't want to spoil it for anybody wanting to watch Porco Rosso.
If you're listening to What to Watch Weekends, I should have clarified. This is the show where I go into spoilers on movies.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to go into spoilers, absolutely.
Safe. Okay.
Yes.
So there is a scene, and I was talking with my boyfriend about this because
Yeah.
I was on the phone with him when it happened. There's a scene where the girl, I'm forgetting her name. Fio, yes. Thank you. There's a scene where Fio is having trouble falling asleep.
Oh,
And
yes.
Porco is sitting at a desk, and he's like looking at
Bullets.
yes, bullets. Ammo is the word I was looking for.
Oh, see, I gotcha.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I can say bullets on the air. Ugh.
It's factual statement. They were bullets
Yes.
in a casing
Yes,
on
yes.
the desk.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. He's looking at bullets at this desk, and she wakes up from her sleep because she's like, I don't know, she just can't sleep. She looks over at him, and for a brief moment, he is seen in his human form. She blinks rapidly, and then he kind of goes back to his pig form, and I'm forgetting where I was going with this.
Oh,
Wow.
she asks him to tell her a story.
Yes, thank you. She asks him to tell her a story to get her to go to sleep, and Porco recounts this. I don't know if it was a war, but it definitely was a fight,
Dogfight for sure.
a dog fight where not dog fight with pigs. That's funny. There are two groups of armed planes flying through the air. Porco is in one of them, and
And this was back when he was a human.
yes, this is back when he was a human, and he has a comrade who is tied into a different character in the movie because she was married to him, and then he died in that battle.
Yes.
But basically, the long story short is Porco ended up being the only person on his side that survived. So that's going back to the survivor's guilt thing. But that scene, I think that was my favorite scene in the movie because it was so tragic, but it was tragically beautiful in a way. Because there's a moment where Porco is sitting at the top of the clouds in his plane, and his plane is unharmed. And then from below the clouds, his comrade, I'm forgetting his name. It's some like Italian name.
It's not really important.
Yeah, it's not really important. His comrade slowly rises up from the clouds, and he's like, "Oh, Bernatelli," or whatever his name is, "you're okay." He's not okay. Spoiler. And he rises up out of the clouds, and then all the rest of his comrades rise up out of the clouds, and there's a trail in the sky, quote unquote, because this is the sky. It's above the clouds.
Yeah, it's above the clouds.
There is not a chemtrail, but it's like, you know how when planes fly over and they'll like leave clouds and stuff like that. It looks like that, but it is planes of deceased pilots.
Many planes.
Yes, many planes. So Porco tries to talk with his comrades, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are okay." And the comrades don't talk to him. And I was like, no, they're going to rise up into the trail of planes? That's so creative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Up to that big air caravan in the sky.
Yeah, the air caravan.
The air caravan. I don't know what else to call it, but I think that's accurate. But yeah, I think you did a great job of describing that. And that is exactly the kind of accentuation of his survivor's guilt, because after that story is over, he looks at Fio, and Fio's like, you're a hero. And he goes, "The heroes are the ones who died. I'm a horrible person."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, you're not. You're good." But that kind of encapsulates everything about Porco Rosso. You need to know about him as a character. He's a pig with survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Basically. I will also say, here's the thing. With those themes in mind, I find it so funny that, again, the music is the most whimsical thing you will ever hear. It's like all jovial and happy when they're in the middle of a dogfight. Let me clarify. When I say jovial, I mean the music in the Peanuts cartoons when Snoopy is pretending to be a World War I flying ace, pretending, is less endearing and funny and full of life than the literal, actual ex-World War I flying ace as a pig in an animated movie. That is crazy to me. Is that crazy to you?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. I didn't notice the soundtrack behind the dogfight, but if it was the happy jovial, then that's a little
It wasn't very intense sounding music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you remember that part at least, it definitely did any of it stick out as like intense music?
That's a good question. Not that I can think of.
Right.
Yeah.
To my memory, it's kind of this weird twangy sound, and it doesn't sound menacing at all, right? The point I'm getting at is somehow Snoopy in the Halloween video covered the horrors of war a bit more directly than the pig with survivor's guilt. I still find that so funny. In that weird irony way of it's two animals experiencing the problems with World War I in completely different ways, but still through the medium of animation. And somehow one of them, made for children, does it more vividly, whereas one that is not made for children, I'd say, because I don't think Porco Rosso would be considered made for kids.
Yeah, there are adult themes in it.
Exactly. There's adult. Yeah. It has adult themes in it, yet it covers it in a more cerebral way.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a fun contrast to just kind of throw it into the ether there. Here's one thing I will now switch to. So you watched the sub version of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the dub version just to kind of get that good compare and contrast here. So you probably didn't. Do you know who voiced Porco Rosso in the dub version?
No.
It was Michael Keaton, the guy who played Batman in 1989, and also is the actor of Beetlejuice in the Beetlejuice movie. He
Okay.
plays Porco Rosso. I will also mention that you know the American guy. Did he speak Did he speak like English in the movie, or was he Okay, he spoke
Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah, he spoke Japanese, but he was referenced to as American.
Right. Okay, that's not confusing at all.
Yeah, definitely not.
So, in the dubbed version, they get Carrie Elwes to be. I think I'm realizing something. Do you know a lot of actors' names? If you don't,
I unfortunately do not.
that's fine. Okay,
I know a few voice actor names,
that's fine.
and I can recognize voices
Right.
between media, but
Right.
names and faces.
Right. So Carrie Elwes plays the American in the dubbed version. Carrie Elwes is Wesley in The Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Wesley.
Him.
I know him personally, actually.
Really? Okay.
That's an actor. That's an actor.
Yes. So
yeah.
he voices the American. Now, keep in mind, you've at least seen him in Princess Bride. He's British.
He is British.
He's voicing an American. Do you think it works? Because let me be okay. I have an answer, but I want to hear. What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't listened to his voice enough to have an opinion on that, I think.
That's fine.
But I do think that British voice actors have a pretty good understanding of how an American accent sounds.
Right. Versus like an American accent having an understanding of how a British voice can sound.
Yeah,
Like,
because that's two completely different things.
yeah.
Yeah, well, like when you think of Spider-Man,
Sure.
both Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield, they're I believe they're British voice actors.
Yes.
And you can barely tell in
Right.
the Spider-Man movies.
Right. So here's the thing. Carrie Elwes does do a good job as the American. Almost too good of a job. Because I'm sitting there going, there ain't no way this is the guy from The Princess Bride. I feel that way with a lot of the dubs. I feel like now's a good time to mention a lot of these dubs. I'm like, there's no way this actor is voicing this character. Because it's the character. It's not the actor. They're doing a really good job being the character and not being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Even for somebody as iconic as Mark Hamill, I was sitting there going, I can hear it in the laugh, but it sounds like an actual character. And that sounds so silly to say. But I feel like half the time with these big names, you sometimes get people who aren't exactly trained voice actors, and they sound a lot like themselves. Right? Because it's more about the performance of them as a person, and that's what's going to sell tickets, right? Whereas embodying the character, it can depend, of course.
Yeah, it
but
depends
like
on each actor, I think.
it always depends. But the best example I can give is like you've got Michael Myers, not Michael Myers. That's the slasher villain. Mike Myers. Wait, they're both spelled Michael. I don't care. Mike Myers as Shrek. Does an Irish accent, and he voices the character of Shrek. He doesn't really use that voice in a lot of his other characters. He is the character of Shrek.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Kenny does the voice of SpongeBob, and he voices the character of SpongeBob. And then in Shrek, you have Donkey, who is just Eddie Murphy talking.
That's a really good point.
So essentially what I'm getting at is with Studio Ghibli, most of the time, even with the well-known people, you tend to get people who are doing more of the Shrek and the SpongeBob thing of actually embodying a character. Keaton does a really good job at that because I knew it was Keaton going into it. And I had to look at it again because when I first watched it, I was like not as familiar with Keaton's voice. Watching it again, I'm going, he's a really good job of just embodying that character. I can hear the Keaton in the voice, but the performance is the character. Mm-hmm. I think I've over-explained myself.
No, I think that's a perfectly good explanation. And I 100% agree with that because I I will watch movies and media with big name actors that go into them. Like The Boy and the Heron. We won't get into it today, but when I heard about The Boy and the Heron, which didn't have much media coverage, by the way. I don't think they spent a cent on advertisement for that movie.
That's because they're really bad at releasing Ghibli movies in America.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I saw something of like Miyazaki didn't even want to mention the movie.
Right.
I don't know.
Anyway.
So looking at the cast of the movie, Robert Pattinson is the voice of the heron.
What?
Yeah.
Heron is a bird or a fish, right?
It's a bird.
Okay.
Yes.
Another bird. Look at that.
Another bird.
Well, but okay, so Robert Pattinson voices a bird.
Yes. And I don't know Robert Pattinson like that. I don't watch his media, but I thought he did a pretty good job.
I could see that actually, because Robert Pattinson, he was Edward in the Twilight movies, which I'm not familiar with, but he was also Batman in the most recent Batman movie.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
He did so good that you forget that he played an annoying vampire edgy emo.
It's funny you mentioned Twilight because my roommates were watching that as I walked out.
Oh no.
To come to the show today.
Gotcha. Are you sad that you're missing out on Twilight?
No.
Okay.
I could not care less.
Either you like Twilight or you don't like it at all. Let me see here. I think the long and short of what I could say about Porco Rosso is I don't have an infinite number of things to say. What I can mention is it's probably one of the few Ghibli movies I could recommend to my own grandfather, because it's really good at having an anti-fascist message. And I think it would make a lot more sense to my pea brain if I knew anything about Italian geopolitics after World War I. So there's that, throwing it out there. I think I could recommend this to Grandpa. He'd probably understand it more than I did.
Yeah. I think that's a common thing to take forward with a whole bunch of the war movies that Ghibli has, because yeah, I think it's a pretty common theme. Yes.
And that's a really good point, because the next movie we are talking about tonight is Howl's Moving Castle, which that one does have some war themes in it, but we'll save that for when we come back from the break. We'll be back very soon. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Weekends, and I'm joined here tonight by
Amy Bates.
Yay! And for our fourth and final movie on the watch list tonight, we're going to be taking a look at the guest pick by Amy, because she wanted to gush about a particular Studio Ghibli movie.
Boom! Howl's Moving Castle.
Yes, Howl's Moving Castle from 2004, which is available to watch on Max. I feel like this is the maybe this is the first time I've done this. Do you want to explain the plot of this at all, or would you prefer I do it?
Now that I'm put on the spot, I don't think I'm confident enough to do that.
That's fine.
I'll hand it off to you.
Okay. I should have warned you before
No,
that.
thank you for asking, though. I appreciate that.
Next time I ask a guest to explain the plot, I'll do it before we come in on live. Anyways, basic plot of Howl's Moving Castle is it follows a girl named Sophie who meets a mysterious wizard by the name of Howl, and then is cursed by the Witch of the Waste to be an old lady. And then she goes back to Howl's Moving Castle, quite literally, and a bunch of hijinks ensue, if I'm being honest. I think that's the core idea is there's Howl, who's a wizard, and then Sophie, a normal girl who is turned into a very old lady. That's the basic plot of it.
Yep.
And then and a lot of stuff happens. A lot of things happen. If I'm being honest, I didn't track the plot as closely as I thought I was going to on a rewatch, because I don't think Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite. I'm sorry, but I think it's more of a visual feast for me than a plot-heavy storyline. I think a lot of the strengths lie in the presentation rather than just the overall storyline. But that's just the overall view for me. Since this was your pick, I'm really curious. What are your starting notes here?
So I have watched both the subbed and dubbed versions of this movie, and I do my best to watch both sub and dub for Studio Ghibli just to get listening practice for Japanese, and also just see if I can recognize any characters, voice actors from anything else that I've watched.
Right.
For Howl's Moving Castle specifically, Wow, I'm forgetting Howl's English voice actor's name.
Christian Bale.
Thank you.
Oh, it's fine.
I was like, I want to come onto the radio show and gush about Christian Bale. And I completely forgot his name. Oops.
That's fine.
Christian Bale, the man that you are. Oh my goodness. Every time I hear him do the line of like Howl is like guiding Sophie down from the sky onto a oh my gosh,
a balcony.
Yes, thank you. Wow, I'm forgetting my words today.
That's
Thank
fine.
you. Thank you for picking them up for me.
It's not like I remember most of my words anyways. So
Howl's guiding Sophie down onto a balcony. Hello. And
hi.
in Japanese, Howl's voice actor says "ii ko da ne," which means like you're a good person or like good girl or boy, which can be taken out of context very inappropriately. That's why I paused on that. Sorry.
Yeah.
And in the in the dubbed version, he goes, "That's my girl." And every time he talks, I flip over my bed and I'm like, I muffle my face in my pillow and I'm kicking my legs and like squealing like a little fangirl. There's something about Christian Bale's voice that just like, it scratches that like itch in my brain.
Right.
It's so good. And I also have another note.
Yeah.
Sophie's voice actress in the dubbed version of the movie.
Yeah. Which one? The one for the old lady or the one for the young version?
Young version.
Okay.
Good clarification on that. The voice actress who voices young Sophie in the dubbed version is the same voice actress that voices Holly Shiftwell from Cars 2.
What? I'm sorry.
Yeah. And the reason I'm so surprised because I noticed this on the first watch that I had with my friends. I watched this late at night with a couple of my friends.
Uh-huh.
And I knew about the "That's My Girl" scene, and I was like, yeah, I want to watch this movie. And when it came to young Sophie talking, there's a point in the movie where Sophie is talking to a young version of Howl, and he's holding his heart in his hand, his little sparkly, cute little heart.
Uh-huh.
And she says, look for me in the future, or like find me in the future.
Yeah.
And the way that the voice actress says future, I was like, there's something about that. There's something familiar with that. So I ended up looking it up, and she's the same voice actor for Holly Shiftwell in Cars 2, which is the very pretty purple spy car.
That my brain is still recovering from being blown out of the water by that information.
Yeah, I apologize.
I mean, they got Michael Caine to voice Finn McMissile. So crazy world we live in. Crazy world that we live in. I mean, decent enough choice. That always brings up the question though, because she's British, right? Mm-hmm. That the older lady version of Sophie doesn't sound that British to me in the dub version. Did it sound British to you, or am I misinterpreting it? I don't know.
I definitely would agree that young Sophie's voice actress sounds British. I don't remember older Sophie's dubbed voice actress.
Oh, okay.
So I apologize. I can't comment on that.
No, that's fine. I find it interesting because it doesn't really sound British to me, but that's just me. I not to like derail this, but
sure.
I'm just thinking of it because I did also watch it today, and I was like, that there's this weird disconnect there. I think this is a good time to mention, since I've already mentioned older Sophie. Again, this is not my favorite one, but from a story perspective, I used to not like this movie a lot. I used to dislike this movie more than I do now. Now I don't dislike it, and I appreciate it a lot more. I used to not like it because I just didn't really gel with older Sophie. I thought she was in the movie too much, and I kind of preferred the younger version of Sophie. Keep in mind, I was a kid. So I wasn't very smart. And I was like, change bad, me like way thing were.
Yeah.
Now that I'm an adult and still adverse to change drastically, but can not apply that philosophy to movies, I think that I like older Sophie a lot more now, partially because she's just so funny, but partially because the younger version of Sophie wasn't really in the beginning of the movie for all that long and was kind of enough of a blank slate to where when something fantastical happens to her, that's when you start to kind of discover her character and get her personality out there. Because something so different has happened to her that, sure, it feels like a different person, but it's really the same person. So when she changes back, it's not like you're swapping between two completely different people. I wanted to mention that because originally I didn't like the older Sophie, and now I kind of appreciate her for existing, which is nice. That's a nice change from how I originally saw it. I will also ask, so since you've seen it subbed and dubbed, you know that Billy Crystal is the voice of Calcifer.
Yes.
Billy Crystal, the voice of Mike Wazowski in Monsters,
Yes.
Inc. and
Yeah.
Harry from When Harry Met Sally. I love Billy Crystal. He's so funny. It's so funny to me because he doesn't really sound like Billy Crystal when he voices Calcifer. Getting back to that whole, they embody the character more than themselves. I was surprised that it was Billy Crystal because I feel like for his personality specifically, he almost works better in the realm of improv, I'd say, in my opinion. I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if you see where I'm coming from with that.
I don't, unfortunately.
That's
I
fine.
apologize.
I think I go off of that because of when Harry Met Sally, a lot of the dialogue there was partially improvised from how Billy Crystal and Rob Reiner talk to each other. And they just use that in the movie. So I know that he has the capacity for improv. I look at Billy Crystal the same way I look at Robin Williams. If you let them improv stuff and build the movie around that, the movie's going to be a lot funnier and it's going to be a lot more memorable and a bit goofier. But because it's a dub, it's basically like asking Robin Williams to do the dubbing on. Can you imagine if Robin Williams dubbed No Face?
That'd be interesting.
It'd be very interesting. But it's from that perspective of because it's a dub, they can't really improv a lot of stuff. They have to go off the script. So they kind of have to force themselves in. I'd say a better example would probably be Robots with Robin Williams, the red robot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Fender.
Yes.
It's clearly scripted. He's not really doing a lot of improv. So he's kind of being fitted into a box rather than being given free reign to do whatever he wants. And I think with Billy Crystal, the transition isn't as awkward because it's not like forcing him into a box. It's more so molding him into a character in the form of Calcifer. Because Calcifer is a decent enough character on its own that it doesn't feel out of place, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I will say, on my first watch of the dubbed version of Howl's Moving Castle, I did, I don't know. There's something about the way that voice actors say specific words sometimes that pings in my brain of like, oh, it's probably this voice actor, or if it's like a specific tone, I'll probably like, oh my goodness. Wow. The voice actor for Dio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay.
He has the Japanese voice actor, he has a very distinct voice. And if I hear him in any other media, I'm like, oh, that's the voice actor for Dio.
Right.
And it was kind of the same thing for Billy Crystal with Calcifer in this movie for me, because I don't know exactly what word Calcifer said, but it was probably like the da 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 quality of like his complaining in the movie, and it pinged in my brain. I was like, oh, Mike Wazowski, hello.
It's probably where he's not when he's talking to Howl. He's what?
I remembered.
Oh yeah.
It's the part where this is another fangirl moment, but Howl is talking with Calcifer, and he's like, Calcifer, you're being so obedient. And then Calcifer is like, I'm not being obedient. She bullied me. And I think it's during that I'm like, Mike Wazowski. What?
I could see that actually. I could see that. Again, since it's so fresh in my mind, that makes it a lot easier for me to imagine that. But I could draw the dots there. That definitely sounds a lot like Mike Wazowski. I will also say my favorite line by him is him going, "Here's another curse. May all your bacon burn."
That's a good line.
I don't know. Was my Billy Crystal impression any decent at all, or was it awful?
I think it was pretty decent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't work at all on it, and I'm surprised it came out at all good.
Speaking of favorite lines,
Oh,
I do
yes?
have a couple favorite lines.
Go for it.
It's more of a scene than anything, but there's a scene where Howl starts melting into this like gelatinous green mess.
Oh, yeah.
Onto Calcifer, and Calcifer's like, "Help me, Sophie! He's gonna put me out." Because if Calcifer dies, Howl dies.
Yes.
And she looks at him, just melting away.
I should mention, sorry to cut you off.
You're
We
good.
should mention Calcifer is a little flame demon
Yes.
with little eyes and a mouth.
Yeah, and he eats bacon and eggshells and all that. It's
Yes.
super fun.
I should have mentioned that. That's like a very specific thing we had to mention. Anyways, continue.
So Sophie's looking at, and this is an older version of Sophie. She's looking at Howl just melting away on this like fire pit thing. And she goes, "Oh, he's so dramatic." And then she drags him up the stairs. He's in like a bath towel, by the way. Like he comes down the stairs after taking a bath. His hair color has changed from blonde to orange. And he's like, "Sophie, you cleaned the house way too much. And you messed with all of my spells in my bathroom. What did you do?" "My hair color changed." And he goes, "What is the point if I can't be beautiful?" Or something like that. What's
says,
the point of life?
I see no point in living if I can't be beautiful.
Thank you.
I have
Yes.
it directly written down
Yeah.
because that's I laughed like an absolute moron the moment he said that.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Calcifer is just such a funny little character too. And going back to like the small little creatures,
Yeah.
I think Calcifer could be considered a tiny little creature.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially during those moments where he's in the little fire pit, because there are a couple moments where he like expands into a very large flame, but yeah, the moments where he's little and cute, he's so sarcastic and so funny, and I think Billy Crystal did a really great job of embodying that sarcastic sense of humor.
Right. Well, there's so many. There's the last two elements I kind of want to bring up with how. Well, not. I'm not gonna quantify how many I have left to bring up because then I'm gonna say like 4 instead of 2 because I can't count. Here's the long and short of it. Some kind of random disparate things I wanted to bring up and have your input on as well is, firstly, before we went to break, I mentioned that this movie is kind of anti-war, which it doesn't not fit. It's more like it's kind of there in the backdrop until it's brought to the forefront and is kind of the main problem of the movie. There is a war going on between two kingdoms, and a lot of it is about Howl going, "I don't want to go to war. This war is stupid. We should not do it." And I remember reading somewhere that Miyazaki came up with it. Excuse me. He made Howl's Moving Castle and included those elements to kind of protest, I believe it was the Iraq War.
Oh, interesting.
Let me check. Let me double check that
Sure.
because that is a bold claim, and I know it was one of those types. Let's see here. Yeah, it was. Miyazaki stated that this is directly from the Wikipedia. So Miyazaki stated he had a great deal of rage about the Iraq War, which led him to make a film that he felt would be poorly received in the United States.
Oh.
That's just from Wikipedia, so don't quote that directly. But I will say, if his intention was to criticize war, mission accomplished. A lot of the people higher up are raging a war, and they bring it up how it's stupid multiple times.
Yeah, they do.
There's just a lot of that.
Yeah. I'm surprised that he has such like low hopes for the US receiving his movies well. And I guess the world, because he's talked about hating, maybe I'm paraphrasing this, but he's talked about not really liking making movies.
Right.
But he makes beautiful movies.
Right. Miyazaki is so strange because he can say the most violently depressing thing you have ever heard, and this is the guy who made the funny little movie about the girl who learns to be a witch and deliver packages to people, or the one about the big bunny who walks around and likes the rain. And it's like, why are you this violently depressing? And why is the guy who made Berserk the most violently depressing manga I've read? One of the most violent and depressing things you will ever read, A Little Ball of Sunshine. And why did he have to die before Miyazaki? Not that I want Miyazaki dead. I will cry when he dies.
Oh, yeah.
But how
absolutely.
come the Ball of Sunshine hasn't lasted as long as Miyazaki? I think it's because Miyazaki is stubborn.
Maybe.
I think is that a decent enough theory? I think he's kind of stubborn.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, there was a really big point that I wanted to bring up, and
Yeah.
I think it's very important to mention, especially seeing Japanese media. You can see a lot of female characters or female presenting characters are very over-sexualized, and that's a whole thing that I can get into. But I saw someone specifically point out that Miyazaki does not sexualize the women at all
Right.
in their clothing, in the way that they present themselves, in the way that they act. It's all really elegant.
I should mention that part of that is because most of them are children, but
That is, yes, this is true.
not to take away from that point, because yes, in the case of Howl's Moving Castle, that's probably the best example of it, because Sophie, sure, she ages, but a lot of it is kind of her, it's almost the opposite, if anything, because she's talking about not feeling all that confident in her own beauty in certain points of the movie, at least in the dub version. And I think that is a good point to bring up, is that I don't think Miyazaki really wants that eye candy appeal. He wants it to be from a lot of other things. He's a lot better at kind of accentuating food and
Oh, yeah.
planes. That it's like it's to the level that you could make an argument that he's a little too into those things in an inappropriate way, but he's not actually, right? You could just make the argument if you're trying really hard and just cherry picking information,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. And I do appreciate the comment about it. Most of the characters in the Studio Ghibli movies are children.
Yes.
But yeah, I find it really interesting that interesting and very respectful to portray women as beautiful and powerful, because there is not much media, at least from America that I can think of, that portrays women as very powerful, as very individualized, as very elegant without being like over-sexualized
Sure.
and like seen from the male gaze.
Sure.
I don't know. Well, like a typical male gaze.
Right. And I hear that, and sometimes I don't ignore it, but I don't notice it as much until I take a step back and look at it. And I'm not disagreeing. I think there are a lot of examples of that. Although my lens kind of gets distorted because my favorite movie ever is Mad Max Fury Road, which objectively is like a perfect counter to that of going, hey, do you know that literally every character who's good is a female, and every character minus two of them are male, and they are bad? It's an interesting counter, but I do agree. And Mad Max Fury Road is also from Australia, so it's not a perfect example at all. But yes, I do think it is a respectful thing, and I think it benefits it more than it can possibly hurt it. It benefits it a lot more, and how do I say it? I should really make sure I stop and think before I open my mouth like you did.
You're okay. No worries.
I think I enjoy it because it doesn't call attention to it and is more matter of fact of this is what these women can do. This is what they're able to do for themselves. This is how they're able to carry themselves. And it doesn't really feel the need to have them explain why or have them say that they can do it over and over again.
Yes.
They just do it.
Yes, and
Yeah.
there is a scene to go very briefly back to Porco Rosso.
Sure.
Porco, his plane crashes. He has to get it repaired. He takes it in and is met with a 17-year-old girl who is like super passionate about plane building. And when it gets to the scene where the plane is actually being built, there's just a slew of women from the same family. They all come in and rebuild his plane, and Porco is just in disbelief that, oh my gosh, women can do this too? That's crazy.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a scene where it's kind of it mentions that kind of idea of like, can women be powerful and can they do all these things? But yeah, sorry to derail us a little bit.
No, it's fine. I mean, what's a Watch Weekends episode without derailing it completely and talking about other stuff? I mean, my mind is still reeling from Holly Shiftwell. So I will say also my final critique on Howl's Moving Castle, the turnip head twist kind of came out of nowhere.
Where he turned into a human?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, this goes back to our earlier conversation of there are spiritual / human characters.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I did really like that when he did turn into a human, he's like kind of held the same stature as he did when he was a scarecrow.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, no, that is a fair point. And with that, unfortunately, we do have to end the show tonight. It's been very fun. Thank you for being on tonight, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry to cut this short. This could go on for the next 4 hours. No. But at any rate, thank you all for listening in to What to Watch Weekends. I will be back next Wednesday for What to Watch Wednesdays, 8 to 9 p.m. on 88.1 The Burg. If you're interested in following along with either show, check out the Instagram or YouTube page at What to Watch Wednesdays, all one word, no caps, no spaces. I will also be back next Saturday for another episode of What to Watch Weekends, where I'll be telling you all what to watch. Good night, everybody.
Good night.